How are time intervals measured? How can we tell the time? These questions and their likes were of great concern for our ancestors because at these times they did not have watches, formal timing, or standard time. The first thing man noticed was that there was a relationship between time and the motion of the sun. They noticed that the time that passed between the early daylight and the later daylight matched the space the sun took in its motion from the east to the west. They thus concluded that there was a certain motion of this planet that matched a certain time. Such being in the case, any shadow on the ground, such as the shadow of a tree, rotates slowly and becomes shorter gradually in the morning time until it reaches the shortest size thereof when the sun is in its highest degree at noontime. Then it becomes longer and longer gradually after noontime and up to the time of sunset. Such a shadow tangibly and visibly represents the motion of the sun and the passage of time together. As a result, it jumped to the man's mind the idea that he would fix in the ground a stick to be positioned vertically, and then he would mark at the origin of that stick some signs or clear indicators. Obviously enough, an iron bar or a column or an obelisk could replace that stick, and that was the foremost and most primitive watch man invented. It was called Naman, while the Arabs called it Dalil, means the guide. This primitive form of watch had been widely used by the Chinese, the Chaldeans, the Egyptians, the Arabs, and the Greek since ancient times. Yet, the sundial watch was very much more accurate than the Naman, because its bar was no longer as vertical as it had been before. Rather, it swerved a little to be parallel to the swerving of Earth's axis. In this way, the direction to which the shadow extended is one place would be the same for all such watches all year round, while the only thing that would change was the length. The sundial watches were developed remarkably. They had a big variety of forms. Slogans were carved on such watches, as some ancient buildings were decorated therewith. However, the problem faced by these sundial watches was that when the sun would be overclouded or covered by something, such watches would become worthless. Therefore, the ancients had to think of another instrument to save them from such problems. After that, man resorted to the hourglass, a device using sand in two glass bulbs, by which time runs tangibly and materially from one bulb to the other. Such sand clocks' first appearance was in the 15th century to continue working up to the 10th century, which witnessed the appearance of the big mechanical gear clocks. Only 6 centuries later, the big mechanical spiral clocks appeared. Finally, our age has witnessed the appearance of the electrical clocks, whose pendulum is moved by the electric magnet deriving its power from a battery. Then came the quartz watches and clocks, whose movement is organized by a crystal hose. Fluctuations are defined by electricity. Nowadays, people are widely using the digital electronic watches, which are accurate enough to correspond with the velocity of the modern time. Nevertheless, people have not deserted the classic watches and clocks. Rather, they started collecting them, paying high prices, and using them as antiques that decorated their houses and offices.